Welcome to Eat Blog Talk, where food bloggers come to get their fill of the latest tips, tricks, and insight into the world of food blogging. If you feel that hunger for information, we'll provide you with the tools you need to add value to your blog, and we'll also ensure you're taking care of yourself, because food blogging is a demanding job. Now, please welcome your host, Megan Porta.
Are you a motivated food blogger striving to meet financial or freedom goals? If so, then the Eat Blog Talk membership is for you. Take a journey with like-minded peers that will bring you past the overwhelm and straight into the arms of clarity. You will have direct access to guest experts delivering massive amounts of value into your business. You will have the opportunity to participate in monthly strategy calls, focusing on different aspects of food blogging, and most importantly, you will be part of a tight-knit, supportive, and encouraging family filled with people just like you. Visit eatblogtalk.com for more information, and the rest of us cannot wait to see you inside. Hey, food bloggers, welcome to Eat Blog Talk. This podcast is for you, food bloggers wanting value and clarity to help you find greater success in your business. Today, I'm so excited to have Srinivas with me from Simple Sumptuous Cooking. We are going to talk about time management to streamline your blogging experience. Has been a food blogger for 6 years at Simple Sumptuous Cooking. She shares popular recipes that are simplified so you can prepare a great meal today. All of her recipes are vegan, and she creates all traditional non-vegan recipes into vegan. Before I ask you for your fun fact, I love the name of your blog. It is so appealing, and it's got that alliteration and just kind of intrigues me to go check it out. So I love that. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic with you today. But first, we want to hear your fun fact.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. I have been a long time listener to your podcast, and I have learned a lot from your community.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm so excited to finally talk to you. The fun fact about me is, although I grew up with not much exposure to exotic cuisines, I have always wanted to try new fusion recipes mixing Indian and other cuisines. You can see like some of, for example, like tikka masala pasta. It's like pasta is from Italian, and I add Indian spices like masalas. Yeah, like that. You can see a few more examples like pineapple tofu curry. It's like a mix of Indian and Thai. And the another like for example broccoli cutlet. It's especially the cutlet is especially Indian, but broccoli is not from it's American.
Oh,
yeah,
that's really cool. So you fuse different foods together from different places around the globe.
Yeah,
and that's really creative.
Yeah, personally I love Thai food. And I try to cook Thai dishes or order Thai food for any special occasion. Yeah.
I love Thai food.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly I'm a food blogger, and this podcast is for food bloggers, so we talk about food a lot. But today, this is my third interview, and in every single interview, we've talked extensively about really specific foods. So I am starving. I am so hungry right now. And now that you mentioned Thai food, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go eat lunch.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, Thai food is the best. It's one of my favorite foods ever. Well, thank you for sharing that, And you are here to talk about just kind of managing your time and streamlining our businesses. And it sounds like you've really dove into this. And you also believe that cooking is so much more than just cooking. And I love that about you. It's kind of the whole experience, right? Including culture. You mentioned cooking from different cultures, and also it involves patience, entertaining, and as I mentioned before, time management. I absolutely love this outlook, and it's kind of unique, I feel like, too. So today, let's focus on just the time management piece of it. Would you mind starting our conversation off by talking about how you manage your calendar in order to stay streamlined?
Yeah, of course. I like one big lesson that I learned running my blog is that there is 10 times more work in the background than what shows up on my site. So working I adopted this quote from Casey Markey that everyone knows about him. He's a SEO expert. Like working smarter is equally important as working hard. So sometimes recipe ideas come easily and sometimes they don't. So I keep a log of new recipe ideas and I plan them out. Like once I post a new recipe, I make sure I follow a set timeline for sharing. I also use an app to remind me of major milestones and activities. You will get the like app in every phones, right? Like alarm and everything. So that's how I keep a calendar with a pre-planned recipes.
Okay, so you mentioned milestones. Like, what do you mean by that specifically?
Um, if there is a specific a group, for example, there are a lot of Facebook groups like specifically for Instant Pot. So I want a focus on that on a particular day. Like if there is a for example on the during the COVID time, there are a lot of people are expecting the how to build an immune system, right? Such kind of things. I previously posted a lot of recipes, but I never focused on that recipes. So I feel like this is the best time during the winter or early spring. So I focus the specific recipes to the specific groups. That's how I keep like during like November and between October and November. I've post all the soups and all the spices recipes to the specific group. Like that, I keep in a calendar. Yeah, post. Post these recipes to the specific group and pin the specific recipes to the specific board. Like that, I keep an calendar log.
That's a good idea. I never thought about putting reminders to post seasonally, or even not just seasonally, speaking of foods and ingredients, but like what's going on, what is relevant right now. You mentioned COVID and, people are wanting to eat more healthfully or boost their immunity, things like that. But I never thought to actually put that in my calendar. That is so smart. So do you just put like the reminder, like, hey, soup season, or do you put specific ideas?
I always put a reminder for Instagrams too, because in a busy day we keep forgetting what to do. Like if you while I'm doing the content for the post, I forget everything else. Like I only focus on that. While shooting videos, I only focus on. I'll keep forgetting. Oh, I have to go through the social sharing also important like that. So if I have an calendar with the it pops up me. Okay, now it's time to share a Instagram post. So that will help. That will be helping me.
I do schedule some social media, but the ones that I don't schedule, it's so helpful to have those reminders just pop up on my phone, because otherwise it's like you said, Uma, it's so easy to forget. So the more you can include in your calendar, I feel like the better, being like going overboard as opposed to, dropping the ball and forgetting it completely.
Yes, that's right.
So I love that. And then what do you use for managing your calendar? What calendar do you use?
I use iPhone calendars, and another app called Alarmed. One app is there. It pops up, like it reminds me per day like twice if I need a reminder. If I scheduled an Instagram post for like for example 4 o'clock, it reminds me 2 hours before, and just 30 minutes, and it shows me until I mark done. So that's the person I am. I don't want to see any notification on my phone. Yeah. So that's very helpful for me. By the end of the day, I see, oh, okay, everything is done. So
Yes. I know we all like to see those crossed off tasks, right? I love looking at my phone and seeing things crossed off. I do not like looking at my phone and seeing a bunch of things that I need to do. So crossing them off is always good. So you talked about just allotting time or getting social sharing on your calendar, but how much time do you reserve for that typically?
In the beginning, I was not paying as much attention to social sharing as I should have. But as I progressed, I learned that social sharing is a task that I need some time dedicated to it, right? So apart from sharing, there are also questions and comments from readers that I like to respond to. So having some time carved out specifically for social sharing and networking helps me and my readers mutually. So I just like I told you earlier, I keep a calendar which is specifically named for social sharing. So I keep I like especially I stop everything. Whatever I'm doing, I'll stop right there and I'll go to, okay, let's do the social sharing thing. That's how I improved a lot of I gained a lot of followers in Instagram after doing that, and in the Pinterest, and in Facebook, my page in Facebook page too.
Yeah. So you kind of set a timer or set an alarm. And then when it's time to focus on Instagram, you've put everything down and you give it your undivided attention and you give it the focus it deserves. How much time, does it vary from day to day, or how much time do you typically give each platform?
Frankly, for Instagram, I spend like 10 minutes a day. Yeah. For Pinterest, same goes Pinterest too. 10 minutes. I most of my times like a lot like within a 45 minutes to 1 hour. But apart from those social media, I spend a lot of time in Facebook because I feel Facebook gives so much more than the other two platform. It's my own opinion, my personal opinion. Yeah, yeah. In Facebook, they interact with each other. They share their opinion, and they after they trying their recipe, they post their pictures with their feedback. I love that. Like, yeah, I can communicate with them. I'm asking them like, how is there anything, do you have a suggestion for me to like with the spices? Most of the people, they don't know about Indian spices, so they are asking me the alternatives of the spices and everything. So I love Facebook a lot than other two.
I actually like hearing that because the common theme currently is that food bloggers tend to not like Facebook and kind of push it aside. But that's not the case for everyone. And you're showing us that there is actually value for some bloggers. And I actually really love to hear that. So you dedicate more time to Facebook. You just like the way the platform offers interaction and it just works for you. So that's great. And you mentioned spending 10 minutes a day-ish on Instagram and Pinterest. And I think that is so smart. Even if it's just 5 to 10, 15 minutes a day, that's really going to make a difference. And you mentioned earlier, Uma, about just, it's not only that you're putting your content out there, you're actually investing in your people and your audience. So by doing that 10 minutes, which is nothing, you're actually making your users, your audience, your people feel good, feel heard, feel validated. You're answering their questions and all of that. So I think that's a really great, solid strategy. I love it.
Yeah, it's working so far for me. So I don't know. Like, I'm not an expert to give an advice, but this is what I follow, and recently I started to believe this, like engage with the readers.
Yeah. Engagement is huge. If you can do that consistently, it's even better. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So what do you think about like the holidays and the, like how ebbs and flows come and go with holidays, and then in between we experience that lull. What do you do during those times, those lulls, to take advantage of your time?
Yeah, this is what I feel. I find that number of visitor to my site is pretty high building up to a certain national holidays, and it is actually comes down that day. So I find that a good time to finish up on a background work. If I have a bunch of images to optimize or according to catch up on, or these are good time slots. Like I said, where I feel working smarter is equally important as working hard. I heard many people like they're saying the Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day that they will get a huge traffic, right? I, what I feel is even I get traffic, but it will stop on the particular day, that Thanksgiving Day, and this is just an example, or Christmas Day, like that. But on those days I feel there is very less traffic, and I don't want to spend too much on that time. Like whenever there is a lower or a holidays time, I feel like, okay, we'll do other work, like other than a social sharing or interacting in Facebook. I'm stopping all those works during that time, and I spend like I said, optimize the images or whatever. I took the video shoots and everything. I'll work on that during this time. Yeah.
So you're saying that during your lulls, whenever that happens for you, because I think lulls are different for all of us. So you just kind of have a list of things you can do that you consider to be like background work. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's super smart. I do the same, and not just for yearly lulls or seasonal or holiday lulls, but also for days when I just feel like not working. I mean, we all have those nights when we don't sleep well, and we wake up and we're like, okay, I am not going to get anything done today. So I pull out of my back pocket this list of just kind of like backward, I call it my mind list or background task list. And I start doing that. Like you mentioned photos. Yep. I go through my photos. That's one of my things too. Just stuff that doesn't require a whole lot of brain power or effort. Yeah. That's super smart. So you also wrote in your notes about blogging tools and dedicating having dedicated space for blogging tools. Will you talk us through that?
Like meal presentation seems to be a big factor for readers as much as ease of preparation, right? And there are some things that we end up using pretty much all the time for presenting the dishes, especially for me. For example, like the tripod, the photography tools, the place settings, etc. It's if you are not keeping it in a specific place, it's very hard to gather all those stuff. So I keep a corner tucked away in my kitchen for all such stuff. That's why I don't spend looking for these things. So this will cut down the time I spend taking a snapshot of my dishes. So that's why whenever I move, recently I moved to two houses for some of a specific reason. Like that time I felt like, I got one more. That's my blogging tools. Oh, that's my blog materials. It was like all over my kitchen. Like, oh, this one was I looking for a long time, oh, I got it. Like, then I thought, okay, we'll keep everything in one specific place so that I can look on that specific space when I need the tools or anything like napkins or bowls, everything. So this is like so much helpful for the bloggers. What I feel like, if everyone keeps their things, tools in a specific spot, this is very super helpful.
And we have so much stuff, right? I mean, we've got like placemats and camera, and you've got your camera battery and cords and tripod, like you mentioned, and backdrops. So if it's spread all over the place, that's not an efficient use of your time.
Trays and spoons. I keep everything separate. I'll keep from life everything. Like, it's only specifically meant for blogging, because it will ruin the shape or we'll get some scratch, everything, right? So
that's smart. And it's something that's so simple, but I don't think is often thought about. Like, not much thought goes into that. But it can, I'm all for just like streamlining as much as possible in any part of our business in order to make it even like a minute faster or a minute easier, you know? So I love that. And I don't keep everything in the same place, but I love the concept of that.
No, that actually it's very helpful, because now I'm like, okay, food is ready, my table is ready. Like, I can grab everything very quickly. I don't have to stress about it, like the things I wanted to need for the snapshot time. So it's like very easy. Like, I know everything where it is, right? So
you don't have to go searching around your house for your tripod. You know exactly where it's at. You don't have to wonder.
Yes.
Yeah, I could probably improve in that area. So thank you for inspiring me there, Uma. Definitely could always, like, we can always be streamlining in various ways, right? So this is just one little way that we can do that. So what do you think about, okay, this is another way to streamline that I know you do because I see it in your notes, but I love doing this too. So going into my calendar and looking at what I have to make coming up, like let's say in the next month, and kind of aligning it with things that I can make to actually feed people. So I'm not making a huge pan of lasagna when nobody's going to eat it. So do you do that as well? Like just aligning your recipes for times when they're actually going to be consumed?
Yes, I do. I'll do most of the time. Doubling up as a blogger and managing a family with kids is a quite challenge. I'm sure most homemakers will agree, and you do agree, right? Yeah. So I kind of evolved into preparing recipes that typically serve for at the end of recipe preparation. And after taking all the snaps I need, we just make it our dinner. Sometimes my recipe trial becomes errors, and other time we have sumptuous meal. Yeah. So, but this way, I feel good about what I share with my readers, because I only share recipes after I get the right mix of ingredients. So using the recipes I share as our family dinner saves so much time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And resources too, right? You don't have to waste anything that you're making. I've done that before, and it's such a bummer when you make something, you spend the time on it, and there's all this food, and then there's nobody there to eat it. So just thinking through that, and it doesn't take a whole lot of thought, really. I mean, it just requires you to look at your calendar and just kind of plan it out in your head. But do you ever have times, I've had this happen, where you are like, okay, guys, dinner's almost ready, and then it's a fail. So then you don't have anything to serve your family.
Actually, yes, it's I think very long time back, because now I have I'm married like 14 years, and I'm little experienced with the cooking. But yeah, it happened. yeah, it happened few times. My kids, especially my kids, they say, "Oh, mom, it's spicy," some such kind of things. Then I'll feel okay. I have to cut down the teaspoons of spiciness. Okay, then I will take a note on my blog, reduce the chili powder if you are not if you are specific about your spice level. Yeah. So even though it fails, I will get something from my kids or my families, um, uh, their notes, like they will give me suggestions, right? This is spicy, this is something like it's if it is bitter, whatever. I
So
will,
you can always get feedback. I
yeah,
mean,
I
even
will
if it is,
get
yeah,
instant feedback.
right.
Okay. So I always consider, I will take, like, I will see the kids' expression, how they like. If they ask one more time, okay, it's super good. Like, okay, then yeah. So it's helpful for me. Like, instant feedback is the best thing. I feel, yeah.
So it's part of the experimentation and just the testing. So you don't see it as like a fail. Like the ones that I remember, I'm like, okay, that was a failure. But really it wasn't, because you learn from it and you learn what to change and what works for the kids, what doesn't, and what everyone around the table is liking. And you can see real time how they're liking it. And kids will not lie. They will be super honest and tell you exactly what they think of your food.
Yes, yes.
I see that every day. So yeah, it's a good learning experience. I like your perspective, Uma. That's awesome. Did you have anything more about that? I was going to ask you about just kind of like logging your expenses, but I wanted to make sure you were done.
Yeah, yes, yes. This is something I started doing recently. So I get lost in managing the everyday things about the blog, and it is easy to lose track of the financial side. So it's very and it comes to hurt us during the tax time. I know it's very different for every blogger, but keeping all the blog expenses on one card or few cards and tracking them separately on an application, like you might heard of Wave apps or, yeah, Mint, makes it a lot easier to keep track of how much you spend. It is also comes in handy when you do your taxes. So this is the way I started recently this year. Yeah.
So you just basically have some way, however that is, to keep track of everything. And at first, I don't think many people think of this until it's tax time. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I spent this year on anything. But it's really not hard. I mean, I use a simple spreadsheet and I can go back easily and see exactly what I've spent money on, the contractors I've paid, the props, all, equipment, software. So it is worthwhile. If you're listening and you do not track your expenses, definitely start doing it. It will come in handy, I promise you, when tax time arrives, because it's a nightmare trying to go back and sort through it in your mind when you don't really know. And also, I will add to that, credit cards, you can get amazingly good like cash back or, some sort of something back deals with credit cards. So I think it's worthwhile to find a credit card that's really good.
Yeah.
And, obviously keep track of your expenses so you're not just wildly throwing things on your credit card. But with intention, put stuff on your credit card and then pay it off so you can earn whatever you want to earn, points, groceries, gas. I mean, there's so many different options. Do you do something like that, Uma?
Yeah, I keep a separate credit cards for blog expenses and for the other expenses, because a few years I lost everything, like my expenses, everything. Yeah. So my husband he's the one always does this tax thing. So whenever he asks, I don't know, I forgot, like lost everything, my blog expenses track. So then I started using the separate credit card for blog expenses and for other my home expenses. Then I got this Wave apps. It actually helps me a lot. It tracks it keeps everything logged in your, if you give your bank account or credit card information in those app, it takes everything. Everything. And we can delete the other expenses than blog expense. We can, I used to do that. I will delete every other expenses which is not blog expense. Then I'll get all the one paper of blog expenses, when I did and how much I got. And from, you can also, if you have an ad income like a media wine or ad thrive, you can get the track from those two, like how much you earn and how much you paid, like those two expenses in a separate form. So we can track down like, okay, how much I did earn this year. Like it's very easy in Wave apps. I recently started doing this since last December. It's so much easy.
I agree. Once you can start just seeing on paper on your screen what is coming in and going out, it makes a huge difference. And then you can kind of compare from year to year and even season to season.
Yes.
But if you don't have that on paper, I feel like it just adds clutter to your business. It adds clutter to your mind so that you're not as clear about what's to come. I mean, we never quite know what's to come, especially if we're relying on ads. But I totally agree with you, Uma. I think it's a really simple way to streamline your business and just honestly like manage your time so much better.
If you are doing your own, like bloggers, they do by themselves, it's very easy. My husband helps me during the tax time. Now he thanks me a lot, like, okay, finally you did one good job. Yeah. So.
You did it right. Nice work. And also I'll add to that, if taxes isn't your thing, and it is definitely not my thing and it's not my husband's thing, it is worthwhile to hire someone who really knows what they're doing. So don't just like drop your tax information off at H&R Block with someone you don't know. Like actually find someone who you trust and who really is good at like digging into small businesses, because our tax guy knows things that my husband and I would never have known. He'll say like, oh, you can write the space in your office off. I sit in my basement in this little corner of our guest room and that's my office, but I can actually write a percentage, some footage in this room off. And that's something that I wouldn't have known. You can write your cell phone bill, a percentage of that off. And obviously like groceries and all of that. So it is 100% worth it to find a smart financial tax person.
Yes. In future, we are looking into that. Yes, I know that. It's a big time consuming. I know.
It is. I just had someone on Instagram. I put a question up on stories the other day and I was like, what are you guys working on this week? And someone replied and said, ugh, I'm working on taxes. Can you please do a podcast episode about that? And I was like, no, I am not going to even touch that one. All I will say is hire someone who knows what they're doing. Not my favorite topic to talk about. Every year when taxes comes around, my husband is like, gather all your information. And it's not that hard. It takes me minutes, but I'm like, oh, really? Do we have to? I don't want to. But once you do it, it feels so good, right?
Yeah. This time I feel good because it's coming up now. This is a time we pay taxes in a few weeks. So I'm like thrilled to have I show all the expenses because I have in all the apps. So I'm little proud of myself. Okay, I'm doing the right things from now on. Yeah,
absolutely. And you streamline as you go, going forward from year to year. You're able to get it more and more, which feels good. We've talked about so many great things, Uma. So ways that food bloggers can streamline their businesses and manage time. So we talked about managing your calendar, looking through your recipes and really thinking through them, thinking through social sharing and creating time in each day to do that, and also to get in and engage with people and comment and reply to comments and all of that. And then also how to manage the times when we're not as busy by doing those background tasks that we maybe don't always love to do or prioritize. And then I loved this tip. This is probably my favorite one. Putting a dedicated space aside in your house for blogging things, your placemats, your camera, your, whatever that is, even your laptop and your notebooks and all of that, because every minute matters. I always say this, like moving around my house to find all these different things really isn't a big deal. But in the end, it really does all matter. Time adds up. That time adds up.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
That one is my favorite of all of your tips. And then kind of thinking through your blog recipes, what you can double as family meals and learning from those. And then our whole thing about financial and credit card expenses and other expenses and tax people. So this has been fantastic. I think this is super valuable information to deliver to food bloggers. So if you could give food bloggers one main takeaway along this topic, what would it be?
Given the time of the year, I think keeping the financial in place with an app will benefit the most. And on a year-round basis, I feel like having a dedicated space for blogging tools in the kitchen would help everyone stay organized. I would say keep at least one section of your pantry cabinet dedicated to this.
I loved it. I love everything that you've talked about, Uma. So I really appreciate you sharing this value with food bloggers and for taking the time out today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. If you have a favorite quote or words of inspiration to share with us, we would love to hear it.
Yes, I have found the quote by Henry Ford. I always mention to my friends and my family the quote by Henry Ford, like whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Very inspirational. Yeah.
That is amazing. I love that. It's so true. If you're thinking something, it's going to be true. So you might as well err on the side of positivity, right? And actually like the side of something that's going to benefit you and your business. Mm-hmm. So that is a perfect way to end.
It emphasizes how much attitude determines success or failure, right? Yeah, I always wanted to share my recipes through my blog, but I had no idea about the background works that goes with it. I still face a lot of challenges, but quotes like this help me get motivated in staying the course.
So true.
Yeah.
Quotes keep me going too. I know some people always say like, I'm not a quote person, but I live by quotes.
Yes.
And all of those people from the past who really like just got their businesses figured out and they were wildly successful. Like go back to them and see what they said. What were their beliefs? What were their attitudes and their dreams and all of that? I'm with you. Every single day I look at quotes. Yes. And that keeps me going.
Same here.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We will put together show notes for you, Uma. So if anyone wants to go peek at those, feel free to go to eatblogtalk.com /simple sumptuous cooking. And before I ask you to share where people can find you, how did you come up with the name of your blog? I love it. I love the word sumptuous, so I think that's why I like it. But how did you come up with that?
How can I say, when I started my blog, I was like, everyone will look for the names, right? Like what to keep, everything. Like most of them, they said go by your name, like my first name. But my dad is the one who advised me to keep a Sanskrit word, which is Mrishtana. That is the link name. You can see, link Mrishtana. But I know in most of the people here who lives here, like in America, it's very hard to pronounce Mrishtana. I know that. And they will be curious what is that means. Mrishtana. It's a Sanskrit in Sanskrit word Mrishtana means sumptuous, rich. So if we go to some places and like in a guest or in a family, or you go to temple and if you eat food, like everyone will appreciate by saying it's a mristana bhojana. That means sumptuous food, sumptuous lunch. Yeah. So that's the way I got it from my dad. He suggested go for a mristana, which is also known as sumptuous, means rich food. So that's how I got
I'm glad I asked about that because I love that it has actual meaning. You didn't just randomly come up with the word, it's still a cool word, but that's really cool. So cool. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm glad you asked. And I was always like, oh, mine is unique to others. Like I always hesitate to say, but now I am over it. But in the earlier stage, I was like, oh, mine is very hard to pronounce. Why I choose, but now that you asked, I'm very, very happy, and now I'm like, oh, okay, it's
I think it's great. I mean, it is. I mean, if you don't know the word, if you're not familiar with sumptuous, it might be like, what? But sumptuous is such a great way to describe food, and it's something that people don't say a lot, and it's just like an intriguing word, like sumptuous. It's like beyond delicious, so it's just an easy way to say that. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Uma. And why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? Obviously, simplesumptuouscooking.com. Where else can they find you?
It's if you go Simple Sumptuous Cooking, if you search for Simple Sumptuous, you can see the www.mrishtana.com. That is my blog where I'll share my recipes, vegan recipes, Indian recipes. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Simple Sumptuous Cooking.
Yeah, everyone go check Uma out and follow her. And thank you so much again, Uma, for being here. And thank you for listening today, Food Bloggers. I will see you next time.
We're glad you could join us on this episode of Eat Blog Talk. For more resources based on today's discussion, as well as show notes and an opportunity to be on a future episode of the show, be sure to head to eatblogtalk.com. If you feel that hunger for information, we'll be here to feed you on Eat Blog Talk.